What's up, everyone? This is Justin O'Connell from GoldSilverBitcoin. We're sitting down today with Chris Taylor of Financial Fitness. How's it going, Chris?
Going good, brother. It's good to be here. Nice to see you.
Great to see you too. We're gonna do something a little different today. We're gonna kind of just have more of a conversation than an interview. I think you're gonna post this on your channel of Financial Fitness on YouTube, and I'll post it on mine. And it's a Saturday morning, so I guess we can maybe unbutton the collar shirt a little bit and have some fun.
Awesome. I'm into that.
So we were talking. I see that you had G. Edward Griffin on your show recently. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, man. He's a really kind, super guy. Just sitting down there just for a minute with him talking, I was learning. I was like, wow, he has a lot of knowledge. He's going to be at the Red Pill. It's going to be him and several others. It's going to be really neat in Lafayette.
Tell me about that. You're going to the Red Pill Expo. It's put on by G. Edward Griffin. It's in Lafayette. It's not on Jekyll Island this year?
No, it's in Lafayette, November 6th and 7th. And the best part about it is we're going to talk about things there that we cannot talk about here. I'm already in the penalty box.
Oh, already?
Yeah.
On YouTube?
Yep.
Oh, well.
Slap me down for telling the truth.
I think I wonder if we could actually get away with that as long as we beep everything out. So in other words, we just have a free-flowing conversation, and whereas on mainstream television, they would beep out the curse words, maybe we can just beep out certain words and still remain on YouTube. What do you think?
Maybe. Yeah. Well, the people that have 1 million subscribers get away with it. But all I did was put a doctor on that was explaining what everything was going on. It was really valid. He had some great points. I didn't fabricate. I just put his opinion on there. 8 minutes gone. And then they said, you can't do that, and we're going to mess you up for 2 weeks. If you do it again, we'll take you off.
Do you do any BitChute or Rumble posting?
I'm going. I've got Odyssey. That seems to be, because it's on the blockchain. That seems to be really my favorite so far. I'm starting Rumble. That's the only three I have is YouTube, Odyssey, and Rumble at the moment.
Yeah, we were going to talk a little bit about Bitcoin. And I think one of the interesting things about Bitcoin is that it is decentralized. And I think as I look at the world and systems generally, the more I recognize that decentralization actually adds to, as that guy Nassim Taleb, who's become quite controversial, terms it hyperfragility. So that is, I think we should look at our communities, our towns, as one system that we want to defend and make as strong as possible. And it should be, in my opinion, largely independent and free to enter into agreements with any other municipalities or towns around it. And from there, we can build like cities of cities, kind of like the internet's a network of networks. And I was speaking with this gentleman who has a business up here in North Idaho called Patriot Energy Systems. And he has designed basically like a portable like solar panel that you can have in your home. And it's on a trailer and you can transport it. So this guy is thinking too, like, he wants to decentralize the energy grid. He wants everyone to have their own generator so that in case there's issues with the main electrical grid, they're still up and running. He thinks that the utilities and the electricity grid themselves should look at more redundant systems and more decentralized systems, not necessarily on the blockchain, just redundant systems. And then, there's this in Bitcoin and then there's cryptocurrency. So there's like Bitcoin, and then I see that as standing on its own. And then there's the rest of the cryptocurrency index, if you will. And I see that generally altcoins as also their own category. Now, with the cryptocurrencies and the altcoins, we've had a lot of DeFi, decentralized finance discoveries or inventions where people are figuring out ways to allow people to lend Bitcoin in a quote unquote decentralized manner and then receive interest for having lent out those Bitcoins. Now, certain developers argue that the same sort of functionalities can be built out on Bitcoin. However, whereas on Ethereum, they're kind of building it all in one package, or they're building it all in one technology. in Bitcoin, because of the way that it's already been built and deployed, it would need to be built in a more modular manner. So like one layer on top of another. And from my understanding, that would actually be more decentralized than like Ethereum's approach, where they want to just create an Ethereum 2 that features all of this type of functionality on one layer. And in other words, whereas the Bitcoin DeFi could theoretically be more redundant or decentralized or layered, the Ethereum one, I think, would actually be more at risk of system failure level bugs. But that's just some thoughts on the decentralization generally.
Man, look, when I started looking at DeFi about 2.5 years ago, maybe, I'm pretty new at it, but it seemed like the best banking system ever. It seemed like getting into it, playing with it, seeing how you could loan it, and it seemed legit. You know, it's as far as being decentralized. Now, man, people have this strange way looking at Bitcoin and decentralized and all that, like it's a secret and nobody really knows what you got, and you can, you know, and it's not really like that, is it? You know, all transactions are accounted for. I mean, they know where they come from. They don't know who made them. It doesn't seem like it's the fix yet. It's too new. That's the problem I see with the whole crypto thing, is nobody's actually using it. I know people are starting to, as we go into this crazy environment. After 2020, we live in the Thunderdome. So, you know, anything goes. But when we're getting in this environment, when food's getting hard to come by, the supply chains are broken, you know, we've got lots of things. China's breathing down Taiwan's neck. That's about to happen. We've got lots of black swans. I mean, a drunk monkey could throw a dart and hit a black swan. I mean, they're everywhere. And when that happens, I think things like cryptocurrencies are really going to take a beat. I think it's going to be incredible. I think NFTs are going to look like cigarette butts blowing around on the sidewalk. You know, I'm not saying it looks like the best marketing strategy ever to be able to look at a product, flip it around. I mean, it looks really cool, and I'm in. But I think it's got a long ways to go. You know, what do you think? You think I'm on the right track there?
A couple things. So about the transparency of blockchain, there were a lot of misconceptions that Bitcoin was anonymous. And I think that was perpetuated largely by the media outlets. So if you dove in, it was very clear right off the bat that it was pseudonymous. It wasn't anonymous. That means at least you didn't need your name and a social security in order to get a Bitcoin address and start using it. There is the blockchain on which all transactions are delivered, and they are transparent. And it is not far-fetched to think that the law enforcement, federal, international law enforcement, corporations like Palantir have developed systems. Palantir and the ones who are openly working on blockchain analytics have developed systems to be able to triangulate the entire blockchain network. So even if you're doing your best to remain pseudonymous, you might do a transaction with somebody who's already been triangulated and identified on the network, and now you're connected to this person. And so now all of a sudden that pseudonymity is being chipped away at. Now, there are some technologies like Monero where they claim greater levels of privacy, et cetera. I wouldn't trust any of that. However, I think it is a technology that when you're at war, like you got to look at every single strategy that there is on the table, and not all the strategies will have all benefits or all negatives. So if at the end of World War II, the story goes that we were looking at an island hopping campaign through the Southeast Asia to Japan at the end, but it would have cost too many American lives. So we didn't go that route. Therefore we dropped the nuclear bomb. Now, I guess, you know, in some respects, these are just different strategies that you got to weigh. And cryptocurrency is a strategy, namely Bitcoin. Or then there's gold and silver, which is another strategy to defend oneself. I almost see Bitcoin and cryptocurrency as financial offense and gold and silver as financial defense. And I think they kind of harmonize and go together. So now when you mention a lot of cryptocurrencies being worthless, should there be, let's say, just a Great Depression, or a greater depression, as some people have termed it. Now, I think a lot of these cryptocurrencies are going to prove valueless and go to the wayside and go to zero. Some of them, however, might not. I think Bitcoin is one in which, if the internet is functioning at least marginally well, it's going to retain some value. Will Dogecoin? Perhaps because of its meme power, it will. Perhaps Elon Musk, who made like essentially just a power play in the Dogecoin world, will lead it into a direction where it has greater uses. On that topic, though, I did find that many people who bought Dogecoin were unaware that it had an infinite supply compared to Bitcoin, which has a 21 million coin supply. So a lot of people were buying Dogecoin thinking that they were buying just a version of a Bitcoin without understanding not only the economics of these two coins, but not even understanding basic economics in general. So why Bitcoin is valuable? Its coin supply is a statement on money printing and inflationary fiat currencies. There'll only be 21 million in the code itself. There is a reference to the bailouts. It says chancellor on brink of second bailouts. So then you get this money, this electronic cash, which has evolved into more like a digital gold, which has a deflationary supply schedule. And then you got Dogecoin, in which there could be an infinite amount. Now, what Elon Musk did, which was quite interesting, was he recognized that Bitcoin's got Satoshi Nakamoto, Ethereum has Vitalik Buterin, but who did Dogecoin have? No one. He kind of inserted himself in a leadership role. He claims to have spoken with the developers. I think when you ask many people who maybe either bought Dogecoin or who, when they think of Dogecoin, they might associate it with Elon. So he, in some ways, recognized a power vacuum and inserted himself into a leadership role on the Dogecoin network. Now, will he therefore use his influence to create a smart Doge, which competes with Ethereum on smart contracting? Will he cap Dogecoin one day, or use his influence to have the developers put a cap on Dogecoin? That remains to be seen. But that's perhaps like Dogecoin's like Mexico. It's like the richest poor country. So then, at least in Latin America, and then you've got thousands of others, and most of them, like you said, you're 100% right, won't be around for very long, NFTs included. Now with NFTs too, you've got two different types of NFTs. You've got the NFTs that we all saw in the mainstream press. It's kind of like Dogecoin again. These aren't necessarily even NFTs. They're kind of just like proxies for an NFT. Like a real NFT that would be cool is if like you had a piece of art that was existing in a decentralized network. But that's not what a lot of these NFTs are. They're essentially just tokens that have metadata linking to a art that exists on a centralized server, or best case scenario on the internet, on IPFS, the interplanetary file system, but not on a blockchain. So now you've got developers who are like, okay, NFT, interesting. Like if you think about it, it's like the ultimate deflationary asset. There can only perhaps be one of these assets, and that can be proven, which is an interesting concept, particularly in normal times in which we don't live. But you got developers who are trying to figure out ways in which to create NFTs where the art itself exists on blockchain. And for me, that's only an interesting concept if that art exists somehow on a decentralized fashion on Bitcoin. And I'm not sure that's going to end up being possible. Therefore, we're kind of in agreement. NFTs, are they a own nothing, be happy technology? A lot of them are.
Yeah. Well, man, when I saw one, I can't remember what it was a Star Trek ship, Galactica, whatever they call it thing. I'm not into that stuff, but it was cool how you could look underneath it, see all around, and I could see. So I build gym equipment. If I could make an NFT for the gym rat, you could spin it around, look at it. I mean, it was really neat for marketing. You could take a tennis shoe and look all over it if you're trying to sell tennis shoes. I could really see that. But as far as, but here's the thing, this stuff is so exponential. It's so 20 years ago, the internet sent an email. You know what I mean? And now it runs our whole lives. It's nuts. And that very well could be the case. You know, I just can't see it. I'm good with that. Going back to Dogecoin, that's really interesting. It looks like, now look, I'm a welder. I look at things very simple. I have to. I get diversified. I have real estate properties. You know, I've got gold and silver. I've got Bitcoin, other cryptos. You know, I play the field. But when it comes to Dogecoin, it seems like more of the same. Something they can make more of. And now you've got Elon Musk that has done incredible things in his life. I mean, he really has. Getting, you know, sucking up to it. And he's creating the network for it. He has such an influence. He can create the, you know what I'm saying? And maybe he could cap it off. I mean, I don't know. I don't put anything past that dude.
That network, though, the network effect is the most difficult part of a cryptocurrency. How do you build that network effect? And he recognized that he had a coin there without anyone in assuming the Vitalik Buterin leadership role, and which already had network effect, to which he only contributed. And so people in cryptocurrency say Elon Musk is just making jokes on Twitter in regards to Dogecoin. But I don't think that someone whose time is at such a premium is making jokes about Dogecoin when there's so much money potentially at stake. He, as far as we know, he's made a handsome chunk of change off of his involvement in Dogecoin. It was below 1 cent when he first started mentioning it. And I knew that it was going to go up quite a bit. And I unfortunately did not put my money where my mouth was, but I was telling people this thing's going to 20 cents. It was below. This thing's going to 20 cents. With Elon Musk positioning himself the way he is, we're going to see something quite dramatic in the Dogecoin world. I also beheld the power of the memes. People love memes, so it's kind of a meme coin. I thought there was an element there, but most of it had to do with Elon Musk's involvement. And it got up to like 60 cents, 70 cents, and then crashed down. And a lot of people probably bought up around like 50, 60, 70 cents. Yeah. And that is sold off as soon as Elon Musk appeared on Saturday Night Live. You're always told, sell the news. And those who did sell that news on that Saturday morning did well. And those who bought did not.
That is gospel in crypto. You know, buy the rumor, sell the news is it. Every time I think it should go up, it goes down. I mean, they've got that part down. Now, so this kind of happened in Germany, in Weimar Germany, in the hyperinflation. It's really the only thing that's happened 100 years ago that is comparable to what's happened now. And people had some people had a ton of money, and a lot of people had zero money. And it's obvious when people have too much money. They pay $50,000 for an NFT, you know, that does nothing. Stock market did great. You know, stock market was going straight up to people that didn't have assets. It's the same now. If you don't have assets, you're not doing good. You know, you've got to have these assets. It seems like we're going down the same road. And you can look, I printed a few things off of Biden's stimulus bill, and it was so long. I just picked a few. I picked like 4. And these are things that, in Germany, they said the same lies. We can print as much money as we want. You know, don't worry about it. Nothing to see here. We've got it under control, blah, blah. Well, if your economy's doing good, you don't need 100 million for behavioral health workforce education. 86 billion. This is a big one for me. A lot of people's pensions are in big trouble and they don't know it. I'm telling them and they're not listening. 86 billion for a rescue package bailout for approximately 185 multi-employer pension funds that are close to insolvency. This doesn't look like a healthy economy if we've got to do this ever so often. 28.6 billion for restaurant revitalization. $350 billion to help state and local tribal governments bridge budget shortfalls and mitigate the fiscal shock. So in this kind of environment, this is just it's heroin. Bitcoin is, I think I would feel way more comfortable holding it than not, because you don't know. I'm not going to hold Dogecoin. I'm kind of got my feet dug in. I'm just not going the, inflationary route. Gold and silver is a must, because you don't know that if we had some kind of grid down situation, crypto is going to be pretty cheap. Maybe you could sell some of your gold and buy a bunch more crypto, but you have those options if you're diversified. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I view it as, I guess, financial offense, financial defense. Bitcoin is an experiment. Still, it's very young. It's only been around for 10 years. So the fact that it doesn't have mass adoption doesn't bother me because it's so new. However, it still is an experiment, and I think that many developers would still term it as such, as developers who even were involved in the early days of coding on Bitcoin. Mike Hearn comes to mind. Jeff Garzik, I'm not sure if he uses that language still, but he has in the past. These are like early Bitcoin OG developers. And then gold and silver is insurance. You
Can we talk about that for a second, about the early Bitcoin guys? How many of them was it? How many of them do you know of that got it for 50 cents or $1 or, really early? How many can you think of? 10, 20?
I can think of a handful. However, how many of them held is another question.
How much of it was lost?
How much of it was lost? How much of it was held? You were able to get Bitcoins through like faucets. So you're able to get like essentially what's termed dust, like a little bits of Bitcoin through faucets rather easily. People were just giving this stuff out in the early days. So people have like thousands and thousands of Bitcoin from those days. There, as Atlas said on Bitcoin Talk, Atlas was some user of Bitcoin Talk, the forum, bitcointalk.org. And at some point, I think maybe in 2011, 2010, somewhere in there, he said, "Gentlemen, we are the new elite." And that he predicted that accurately. If you had enough Bitcoin at that point and you were able to write it from, basically zero to now what, $60,000 in volume, you're very wealthy these days. So this class does exist. And I will say many of them aren't overly active in the Bitcoin space today. That might be it's a safety issue, because when you're your own bank and your bank has billions in assets, you might be a target for crime.
You're a big threat. You're a big threat to the guys that, like we said earlier, pulling the strings up there. I think the central tops down approach, people.
So I think what's interesting is that the Bitcoin community, I think, is somewhat of a threat, because and I'm not talking about crypto, I'm just talking about Bitcoin. These are two different things, because they truly value the notions of freedom, of liberty, of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, equality, justice for all. Bitcoin is really a classical liberal, which today is generally considered a libertarian invention. And it encompasses a lot of the values that this country, the United States, was founded on in the Bill of Rights, the Constitution, and the Declaration of Independence, right? Holding Bitcoin is a declaration of independence. It's the ultimate declaration of individual independence in a way. Now, that's the belief of the Bitcoin community. And so when you go to an event like Bitcoin 2021, which is coming up Bitcoin 2022, which is coming up in April, or Bitcoin 2021, which happened in June, I believe, you are with a community that first and foremost is there talking about central banks, debt, inflation, freedom, liberty, and independence. And that's the focus. And I think that is in part why there's so much energy emanating from the Bitcoin industry. You go to a silver conference, and that same energy isn't there. And some people say, oh, it's a price thing. I don't think that is. I think it's a communication shortfall. I think that those who are in the silver and gold industry, for whatever reason, have lost the script. They're talking about silver as an investment, silver as an investment. But I think that the culturally speaking in the United States, the real like line of reasoning to defend silver in particular is that we're supposed to have a bimetallic gold and silver standard. We're supposed to hedge against inflation, not invest in silver so that it goes to $50. We've got it printing that's out of control, $6 trillion in the last year or so. And that the value proposition of silver isn't that it's going to go to 50. The value proposition of silver that it's going to give you freedom, independence, liberty to hold your own money and be your own bank. And furthermore, to maybe, and this is sort of pie in the sky, I think that this is there's going to be a lot of smart people that are going to have a discussion about the plausibility of this, a bimetallic standard again. Can the United States go back to a bimetallic standard? Should it go back to a bimetallic standard? Should it maybe go back to maybe should it go back to some sort of basket currency? But at least we can have that discussion.
What are they going to buy it with? What are they going to get the gold with? That's the problem. China's been hoarding gold at like 200 tons a month. Half of the Bitcoin's mined in China. Am I right?
Hopefully that evolves because it has been an issue, and that is one of the biggest critiques of Bitcoin. Certainly, I mean that so much of the mining happens in China, and this will be dispelled by certain people who are saying that it's coming to North America. It's coming to North America, but how much time do we have? And even if they shut down all of the mining in China, that would be, of course, a setback. But I don't think it would be the end of Bitcoin. It might end up being a good thing because if we're able to get miners up and running in freer countries, it would be a net benefit for Bitcoin in the long run. But it is a concern and something that people should be aware of on the Bitcoin front.
It makes sense to me. I think it would be extremely foolish for our government in the United States to outlaw Bitcoin. China's trying to do that. And they've done it forever. I wish I had a Bitcoin for every time they outlawed it. But when you've got all this liquidity, stock market's way out of, it's just divorced from reality. When you have this money and it's going to go somewhere, the easiest place for it to go to is some type of crypto. I'm going to say Bitcoin and Ethereum first because that's the two big ones. I can just see that so well because there's not enough gold and silver for everybody. There's like enough silver for everybody to have 2 ounces. There's not enough silver for that. If I remember what David Morgan said, right? It seems like it doesn't have a choice but to go to the moon. And maybe I'm looking at it wrong. And maybe they're going to Chainlink and all these other ones are going to, suck off of it. What do you think?
I wouldn't worry too much about Chainlink. It's interesting. Watching the Ethereum development space is interesting, but they're not really like after what we're after. The people building Ethereum are, not as concerned about this sort of the series of events that we're experiencing now at the global level, a period that may ultimately end up being similar to the 1914 to 1945 period with crisis after crisis, World War I, pandemic, hyperinflation in Germany, the Roaring 20s in the United States, the Great Depression, and ultimately Nazis, the Soviet Union under Stalin. Then you've got also World War II and the Nazi state in Germany. So the Ethereum people, I just generally, not to generalize, although I am right now, are not as aware of this as the people who are into the more, at least deflationary cryptocurrencies with Bitcoin at the center. Monero comes to mind. I bet that community is pretty well aware of some of these issues that are cropping up. So Ethereum, Chainlink, these are speculative assets. These aren't assets that I think are going to be building healthy technologies ultimately. I remember there was a company on Ethereum, and I think this kind of distills what a lot of these companies are building, which is creating some sort of smart contract-based key system, a digital key system. And the use case that they were floating in their press release was that if we have decentralized keys on Ethereum, then if you're having a heart attack in your own home, the paramedics can show up and get into your home and save your life. And I'm like, oh yeah, okay. As if there
Okay.
isn't a flip side to this
I
technology.
hate to hear that stuff. I hate to hear anything for your safety. When they start talking about that, I just want to go the other way.
And so exactly. And I'm like, no, so there's multiple problems with this press release. First of all, is this technology really something we want to unleash? Second of all, you're going to insult my intelligence so badly by saying that this key is going to be for my safety. These companies that are marketing often think they think that their like audience are a bunch of like fools, which that's why you
There's
get
a lot of people buying deflation, inflationary tokens. I mean, people are going to buy things that are going up. They don't care about what it does. They think that if they buy $1,000 worth of Shiba, they're going to be rich in a year or two. I mean, that's right. It doesn't matter if it's inflationary or not. And I think for a short period of time, it's going to do like those. It's going to go, and everybody's going, oh, we're rich. And then they're going to gut it and probably buy Bitcoin with it or gold. There's no telling.
They might be able to do the same with Bitcoin. And certain people would argue they don't. I think if you look at some videos online about the Wyckoff distribution cycle, Uncomplications, a YouTube channel that's done a great piece on that. These digital assets can be manipulated. And perhaps as we have increasing amounts of ETFs online, they will be easier to manipulate for any cartels that wish to do that. Ultimately, though, it's not about the price of Bitcoin. Bitcoin is an asset to just gain back some independence, to be your own bank, etc. And it doesn't really matter if it's $4 or $40,000. What really matters is that you have this independence, and the same goes for silver. I think at this point, in middle America, I'm not convinced that if I went into a store and I said I want to pay you in silver, that they would say no. They might say, yeah. And then I'll be like, do I get a discount? So I think that silver could be used at the regional, local levels. I think one of the potentially beneficial aspects of today is that we're going to have to focus more on our communities. How many of us are really excited about flying right now, considering the protocols and the controversy about it? I'm more excited for a road trip. And even if that means I have to go on a road trip for business. Where I am, there's the tech belt outside of Salt Lake City and Utah. I think here in Idaho, there's a lot of growth going on. And in these communities, I think there's going to be a lot of opportunities for us to contribute to robust culture and community, and also perhaps a potential to pay for goods and services in gold and silver. I don't see there being a huge barrier to that in these towns.
It's so fun to go buy gold and silver. You just take your fiat currency up there. It feels cheap, and you hand it to them and they put a big stack of coins in your hand. It's like, whoa. It's like, hey, is there tax? No, there's no tax. You swapped fake money for real money. And people like to call it God's money. And I've said it before too. God's not running around using money, but I believe he put these precious metals in the ground in a certain amount that's hard to get to. It makes sense for that to be money, but no government wants that. They're not going to do that. They're going to start with that, and then they're going to get all of it, and then they're going to give you some fake stuff. That's the way it's always been. And they have always, without a doubt, printed until it just went away. They printed them into oblivion. Every currency that's ever been on the earth. And it averages about 50 years. That's how long one makes it. And we are in the 50th year right now. So you talked about community, man. That's how we're going to get through this thing that's coming. And people say I'm a fear monger. I'm doing my best to get people to be part of the solution later. If you're not part of the problem now, if you'll take some of your, because I know a lot of guys that are millionaires in the stock market, because that's not the way it happens. That's not what it's supposed to work. They're making money by not producing, and it's all fake. So just encourage them to take a little bit of it, put it in precious metals, a little bit of it, put it in Bitcoin, diversify. That way, when it falls out, it is going to fall out. We all know that. You can be part of the, when you get to the bottom of the hole, you can help build the ladder to get out. That's why community is so important, because I think it's going to get a little weird. I think it's going to get like everybody's nightmare, and it might be for a short time. According to history, hyperinflations don't take very long. It's like 6 months, a year, where they just blow up the currency completely. It's going to be a really exciting time to be alive, because I think we're going to get to see Bitcoin go straight up, and then you're going to get to see it go straight down. And there's no telling what gold and silver will do. To quote Doug Casey, he said it was going to be like fitting the contents of the Hoover Dam in a garden hose. I thought that was funny. But going back to community, food, some people are going to have bring something. They're going to have to bring, you can't just show up. I do a lot of talks about dry canning and, some somewhat doomy talks. Not that I want to, I just think it's important to have a little food.
I mean, it's like funny if somebody from like the 1920s, even like not even the Great Depression, before that, they're like, what's so doomy about canning? It's like a normal domestic task.
Yeah. My grandmother,
stuff.
yeah, she talked about the Great Depression all the time. I mean, they didn't have shoes. They chopped cotton for 20 cents a day. They lived it. And and they did very well. My grandfather had a trucking company and stuff, but they still went to garage sales. It really did something to them. They had some siblings die, from not having enough food. I mean, it was like the toughest, hardest time ever. And now the population's what, 10 times what it was? I don't know. It's a lot. And we're already running out of food. If you go to the store right now, it looks like there's food. It looks like it's full. But the supply chain is so broken. When that's gone, it's like, I don't know. I don't know what people are going to do. I've had some really doomy people come to my house out of their way and talk to me that are, I can't say much, but really reinforce what I was thinking. So it's going to get a little bit crazy. Hold Bitcoin, gold, and silver. That's kind of it.
I read a book when I studied history in college. It was about the late stage Soviet Union. It was called Everything Was Forever. Everything was forever until it was no more. And essentially the premise of the book was that everyone thought the Soviet Union would exist forever until one day it just did not exist and everything had changed. And I think that we can see in a lot of our peers, we've had friends who we've grown up with and maybe don't think the same way we do these days, who just assume that things are going to be like they were before. People in my parents' generation too, they've post-World War II generation, born in the 50s and 60s. Man, you're talking about the 30s was the hardest time ever. It seems like they had the easiest time ever, unless they went to Vietnam or something and had to go to a war, or personal traumas, or perhaps lived in Black communities where, because of welfare and drugs being peddled into those communities, times were tough. But largely, at least for the vast majority of people who were born in the 50s and 60s, easy time. They're not expecting anything to change too significantly here moving forward, but things are moving fast. So we keep thinking about this like event that will happen, and there very well may be an event, but there's going to be, as you said, black swans that are leading to it, and we're already in the midst of a number of those. I mean, where do we begin? Okay, so not going to mention anything that might get us banned. But then there were lockdowns, and then there were supply chain issues, inflation issues, tense times, division. We're already in the thick of it, and it's going to take the individuals to find themselves, express their individuality, think for themselves, want to be free, want to live life, pursue happiness.
It's like you said, if we can get people to get past this recency bias, it's the worst around here. I poll people everywhere I go because I'm genuinely concerned for my area. Because I ask people, hey, you got a little Bitcoin, you got a little gold, silver, you know? No, you were saying that a year ago. It's like, man, how about some food? How long can you go without food? Oh, we got a little food. That means they've got 3 days. You know, it's, and a lot of people say, well, I know where to go when I need food. I'll just come see you. They don't understand. I don't have enough food. You can't ever have enough food for you. I've got a garden. I'm clearing some land for another garden, but I've already got too many mouths to feed. You know, I've got 24 chickens out there. A bag of chicken food's $30. I spent $500 on 20 bags of chicken food. You know, it's like, I don't know how to help them other than create a YouTube channel and show them these things. Hey, here's how you grow a garden. Here's how you lay plastic mulch. Here's how you do a watering system. You know, that's all I can do is try to help in that way because I'm not going to be able to feed everybody. I'm going to have a hard time feeding the people that I'm going to be feeding.
You know, and I think one way you can also help is teach people strength and conditioning. So I wanted to ask you some questions on that front, because I know you're a welder, you're making gym equipment. You mentioned that earlier, and you obviously spend a lot of time in the gym. So I'm curious, like, what tips do you have to people who are
Thanks,
trying
man.
what tips do you have for people who are trying to get on that kind of regimen? What tricks, what
Okay,
advice?
man, I'm going to try to nutshell it for you, but I'm probably going to digress. So hang on. So you started off with saying you spend a lot of time in the gym. I have spent a lot of time in the gym, but it's been over the course of years. And then I got fat. I just quit, and my muscle shrank, and I was able to gain fat faster because muscle burns fat. So where that's going is I don't spend a lot of time in the gym. I spent about 20 minutes before this, and that's it I'm going to do today. Yesterday, I spent about an hour because it was Friday. I enjoy working out. I'll listen to a podcast and I'll do 4 exercises. And I'm starting to create shorts and show what I've done today because people think you got to do this. When I mention working out, getting in shape, they think you got to stop what you're doing, run a mile fast for 3 days and jump on a trampoline. They want to do it all. And all they have to do is just go to the grocery store and buy some decent food, something that you don't pour out of a box. That is the hardest thing to get people to do. The next thing you have to do is get a way to calculate calories that you put in your body. I use LifeSum. It's an app I use on my phone, and you will immediately notice. It'll help you through it. It'll help you, okay, I'm this age, I'm this weight, I like these foods, you know, and it will pop up a number about what you should be eating. It's probably around 2,000, 2,300 for you, maybe. Now that is probably maybe more, it's maybe less, but it's a good starting point. And you can start eating the right calories, and you don't have to hit it perfect, just hit it somewhat. And then you can start by lifting weights, heavy weights. That's the biggest hack I know, is to lift heavy ass weights. It sends signals to your nervous system, your central nervous system, and it says, you have got to get better. I've got to make your whole body better. I need calories to do it. Your bones get denser, your tendons gets hard and white. When I go to the doctor and they x-ray, I had a problem with my elbow. They wanted to cut on me and I wouldn't let them, and it went away. Anyway, they said, oh, your tendons are just crazy looking. They passed it around the office. Like, what do you do? I said, I just lift heavy weights. You know, I'm not doing any kind of triathlons or anything like that. So deadlifts are the best way to get started. It's like, you'll feel weird after the first time. You'll feel kind of, it's a weird central nervous system strain, and it takes a while to recover from it. But man, when you do, you will be so hungry. And when you get hungry, you know, my body's burning calories. And it burns it for 8 hours after you quit lifting. That's what people don't. So the economic ninja, I was talking to him yesterday. I said, he'd lifted weights, and then he was going to back to the gym to do cardio. I said, don't do cardio. Do not do cardio. He's like, what? I was like, yes, you've already created that hole. So you create a little hole and your body's got to fill it up. If you create a hole this deep, your body's only going to fill up that much. You've done more than you can build back from. So you want a small calorie deficit, like 200 calories, and dig a little hole, whether it be, whatever. Lifting heavy weights burns more fat than cardio. I like to save cardio for it's a tool. All these are tools. So lifting weights is a tool. And when it gets closer to summer and you really want to get there, you really want to get ripped, implement a little bit of cardio, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 3 times a week, something like that. Because your body will adjust. If you do it all at once, you'll make crazy gains, and for 2 or 3 weeks or a month, and your body will adjust, and you'll have to do that every day. You'll have to do that. Your body's smart. It's not going to let you get skinny. It doesn't want to be skinny. It wants to have fat. Did I go too long, man? I can really talk about this.
No, keep on going on. I mean, I guess I would interject and say, okay, so I had a big plan at the beginning of 2020. I was like, all right, I'm going to start going to the gym or whatever. I'm gonna put on some weight. Well, I put on the weight, but I didn't go to the gym. Anyway, so I was like, all right, well, that kind of backfired here about a year later. And I was easily able to shed the extra pounds by just regulating my food intake. And I guess this word's kind of a trendy word right now, and I wouldn't even say I was doing this, but fasting comes to mind. I just cut things down to a window. So I had a window in the daytime when I was eating, and I had to stick to this window. I don't know if it's fasting. It's just that
it's intermittent.
The intermittent fasting, the snacking was off the table. So I wasn't snacking outside of this window now. And I quickly dropped weight that maybe some people think might be done through cardio.
Okay. Yes. Now I've had really good success with getting people on losing fat by intermittent fasting, but there's a problem. There's a hang up. It sucks. It's hard. I love breakfast. I like to get up and I like to eat. I like to eat all the time, actually. But so that's one problem. The next thing is, remember how I told you your body will adapt to whatever you do? So they have success doing this, and they think, well, I'll just do this, and I'll fast for 12 or 14 hours. And it's hard to eat enough calories in that allotted time, the right calories. If you can implement fasting, but your metabolism will adjust, and it's hard to stick to. And then when you get off of it, you gain it back. So I guess the main trick is diet on as many calories as possible. Because if you're lifting weights and you're eating 5 times a day or so, you're getting it going. Boom, 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 boom. It's like a machine. You're feeding it and it's burning. You're feeding it, it's burning. You get that sweet spot and you get your machine running just right. Then fast, boom, and you will shed 1 pound of fat in a day. It's like, whoa, it was crazy. So I started. I wish I could put a fat picture up there, because when I get into something, it's all the way, man. It's my biggest Achilles heel. It's my best, thing too. But so I went way down the rabbit hole in this, and it's been really good because I've been able to help a ton of people get into shape. So that's intermittent fasting is really good. I'm sure I butchered that question. Intermittent fasting works, but get that metabolism hot. I mean, what's wrong with eating 3,000 calories a day, 3,200 a day, 3,300 a day? It's like you're eating all the time, and you feel good because you're not eating junk, because you're putting food in your calculator. When you put junk in your calculator, you're out of calories. It's like, oh man, I can't. Then you're in a bind because you're hungry, because that bad food your body, when you eat that kind of stuff, like processed carbs. You're familiar with what a processed carb is, right?
Yeah, explain.
Sorry?
Yes.
Okay.
Explain though.
This is really, really important. So when you eat processed anything, that's when they take a food, they take it out of the ground or whatever, and they process it. They grind it up, they cook it, they enrich it. You've seen that on products. That means they took all the good stuff out and they put fake stuff in so it'll stay on the shelf a long time. That's what enriched means.
De-riched.
Yeah, that's it. So when they do that, they make it hyper palatable. So when it hits your palate, it's just like a celebration goes off. It's like, whoa, man, that was good. And you instantly, because your body wants to have fat on it. It's a survival thing. So you overeat because it's engineered to make you overeat, to make you fat. Your body wants it. And that's what they've done. They've processed it you know, okay, here's the next thing. So when they process it and they grind it up and they cook it and they put sugar and fat on it, it dissolves fast. So when you eat a piece of oatmeal, your body has to work. It has to kind of eat on it, and it slows down how it gets in your bloodstream. Okay. When you eat something like a Cheerio or something, white bread, anything like that, where you hit it and it just dissolves, it's a straight boom, hits your system. Your system says, whoa, I can't take it. Send it to storage. Go to storage. We can't handle that much. So when you start looking at it like that, it's like, okay, eat stuff that's not easy to digest, I would say. You know, that's slower burning. You'll have more energy. That's why a lot of times when people overeat on junk, they feel bad. You know, because it's too much for your body to handle. All your blood runs down there and goes, oh, we got to do something with this. And it stores fat, and then you don't get to use it. It goes to fat, and your body does not want to use that fat. It wants you to eat more bad food. You know what I mean? Your body said, no, I got this fat now. I'm not letting you have it back. I want to keep eating. So when you figure that out, it really helps. And when you put it in your calculator, you'll notice it too. It all goes hand in hand. I'll help you any way I can, man. I got a guy right now, Kenneth, on my channel. I told him I'm making videos about this to help people lose fat. He's 300 plus. You want to lose 1.5 pounds a week. Everybody wants the quick fix. Everybody wants the, oh, I want to fast for 3 days and eat for 1 or something crazy. No, you just want to eat as much food as you want and lose 1.5 pounds a week. And then when you get there, you're eating a ton of food. You feel good. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people think, okay, a diet, that means I'm going to just be miserable forever. And then I'm going to get there. And then I'm going to eat it. That's not the way it is. It's a lifestyle. It's you start finding foods that you really like. It's like, wow, I have a protein pudding that I eat every day. It's oatmeal and protein and eggs, and I put it all together. Check it out on my channel. It's really, really good. And when I'm trying to gain a little weight now, because we're getting into winter, I'll start putting Ready Whip on it, granola, throw a little processed carbs on it, throw some junk on it. But this summer, I'll rein it back, and then it'll start coming off. You can push the throttle as much as you want or take it back, but you don't want to take it back too much. You'll stall out. Does that make sense? I feel like I'm just fire hosing you.
No, it's great. I've really settled on a beef and steak based diet. Those are really the foods that I feel I can eat, and I can eat a lot of, and I don't get slowed down. I feel like it gets digested at a pretty quick pace, or rather I just don't feel full for very long, if at all. Whereas with the processed carbs, obviously, even like pastas, rice, different story.
So yeah, I love beef. I love red meat. The problem with red meat, so I like carbs too. Now, there's no problems with red meat. Nothing's off the table. I eat everything. But the problem is it's mostly fat. People have this misconception that red meat's protein, and there's protein in it, but not near as much as it is fat. So if you're going to do that kind of diet, you're going to have to eat less carbohydrates than what I would want to eat. Because I love carbs, man. I eat so much rice, it's unreal. Rice and pasta, and I eat it all. I just make sure I've done it long enough. I know about how much I can eat. So you're leaning towards a ketogenic diet, right? Or a low carb?
At present, more ketogenic.
Okay. So just fats. And see, I run out of food. I like that diet. Don't get me wrong. I can get ripped really fast doing that. But I get tired of avocados. I get tired of just beef. Chicken's kind of off the table because it's not enough fat in it. It's too much protein. Protein will burn as energy too. It'll break down, and if you eat too much of anything, it'll make you fat. That's
So that's one thing I think it's poor is moderation. And so it's like, I'm not going to just only eat beef for the rest of my life. Although I know certain people are on that sort of diet, and I don't think that is for me. However, I do like to experiment, and I do like to eat different types of food, and how I feel afterwards will dictate a lot of how I continue to incorporate that food into my diet. But then another thing is that I listen to my body. So if I'm like craving something, there's some reason there. I'm craving that perhaps, unless I just like walked by like some store that smelled good and that's why I'm craving it. But generally speaking, if all of a sudden I get some craving out of nowhere, I listen to my body and I think, you know what? Today I'm going to have some eggs. I'm going to have some chicken. I'm going to have some rice, some pasta, some nuts.
Oh, I love nuts. You know, there's as much fat in a handful of pecans as it is a Big Mac. And people want to say, but it's good fat. That fat will make you fat. It doesn't matter what kind it is. Now, it is a good fat, but if you're trying to lose weight, it's way, if you could stay away from nuts, it will help you so much. Here's the problem with fat. There's 9 calories in 1 gram of fat. There's 4 calories in 1 gram of carbohydrate, and there's 4 calories in 1 gram of protein. So it's more than double. It's calorically dense. You know, it's more than double the calories, and you don't get that full, that satiated. Now, if you eat a lot of fat, you get satiated. I don't know. Keto, I feel satiated, but I still want those carbs. I don't know. My body loves carbs. You should try. Have you ever used a calorie calculator? It's so hard for me to get people to do that.
No, I have never.
It is just so, it is, when I mention weighing your food, they're like, oh, no, nope, not going to do that. It's like, nope, not doing it. But if you'll do it just for 2 weeks, you'll know exactly where you're overeating and you can adjust. You can make one little tweak and then you'll be, you know, you'll be back on that 1.5 a week. Now, a lot of people don't know that about did you know that about the macros, the calories?
No.
It was a breakthrough for me when I figured that out. It really helped. That's why low fat diets usually work better, unless you're strict keto.
What's your core diet? Like, what do you eat? Generally speaking, like when I say like generally speaking, right now I'm eating a lot of like beef and steak, but it's mixed in with sides oftentimes. What's your core diet?
Okay, well, this morning I love oatmeal. Makes me feel good, makes me feel full. My body burns it slow. I don't crash after I eat it. So I usually do oatmeal and eggs with some type of protein in the morning, protein powder. I only use protein powders if I'm not getting enough protein. The reason why protein is so important, let me finish my diet. Sorry, I get sidetracked. So, okay, my diet. This morning, 110 grams of oatmeal, which is 2 cups, a little over 2 cups. Half a jug of egg whites, which is 5 servings of egg whites, 3 whole eggs, some cinnamon on top of that, and a ready whipped cream, and some granola. I eat it, and I eat half of it. I wait 3 hours. I eat the other half because you want to keep that. So you want to keep it fired up. So you eat, and your blood sugar comes up, and you want to let your blood sugar dip just a little bit, and then you want to eat again. You know, when you get down here is when you're burning the calories. Does that make sense? So if you eat too much, it'll be too much and it'll drop too hard. So every 3 hours I'm eating, you know, I feel good and I get a little hungry and then I eat again. My next meal will probably be chicken and rice. I think we got some shrimp cooked up. I try to cook up about 3 days worth of proteins, chicken, shrimp, steak. I eat a lot of steak, a lot of ground. There's nothing I don't eat besides organ meat. I don't really like liver and stuff like that.
Man, I think that's maybe where we're also making a mistake. We might want to get in on that liver game from what I'm
that's what I hear too. Yeah. Organ meat. It's supposed to be great for you. Brains.
Yeah, my mother-in-law loves that stuff. She's from Mexico, and she's like, we got liver here, and she cooks it, and when she's here, and the dog goes crazy. The dog loses its mind when the liver's on, like nothing else. So
yeah, my little dog's just got through eating liver. They're the only one. We get a cow. I get a cow and a half every year. A lot of red meat. I got some vegan friends, and if they knew how much red meat I ate, they'd be pissed.
Yeah. So like, how about the vegan friends a little bit? Like, so I've experimented too with the vegetarian diet because I've been all over the place. I don't know if I've done vegan too much, but I've like been vegetarian for extended lengths of time. And I think that I feel better on with a red meat first. I feel bad for the animals, but it's just a fact.
Well, look, I love animals. I mean, don't get me wrong. I don't want to see any animal abused or child abused or anybody for that matter. But when you get down to it, those chickens out there, they're like food processors. They eat food and they crap out an omelet. They're food condensers. A cow's a food condenser. It goes out there and it eats grass and eats all this stuff and it packs it into a muscle. Now you can eat this much meat and you don't have to eat a bucket full of lentils. I'm not a big lentil fan. Sorry, it's really hard to gain muscle on a vegan diet. I've looked into it and I don't want to do the soy thing. There's all kind of bad stuff about soy. And that's where vegan bodybuilders mostly get their protein from. And there's all kind of vitamins and bone density issues with not eating red meat. I mean, there's a lot of good stuff in red meat, a lot of micronutrients that people don't get. They're starving on a micronutrient level. A lot of them. Now I know one guy, Chris Rivenberg. He's a great friend of mine, and he is like a militant vegan. And he doesn't try to push it on anybody, which I really appreciate. Because most of them, it's like a religion, But he looks healthy. He does it too. I mean, he doesn't eat butter or anything. Eggs. I can't imagine giving up butter and eggs or steak there might be one day when we have to, when we get on this China Joe Biden diet.
David Morgan was speaking with the Economic Ninja in an interview I just watched, and they were talking about an event coming and potential depression, and David Morgan was like, I think there could be some good things that come out of this if you have a strong community and a strong family, and you might not be eating as much junk food also.
Yeah, we could call it forced fasting. China Joe forced fasting diet.
I like that. Mandated fasting. That's what fasting mandates. And if you don't fast, you're selfish.
But hey, I wouldn't put it past them. That sounds so legit.
It does sound pretty legit.
Yeah. Yeah. For your safety and animal safety and the cow farts. Don't forget about those. Those are killing the global environment, melting the icebergs.
I swear I saw I don't even know if this was real, but it probably was real. A cow with like they created some device where it's like got a plastic bag behind it so that none of the gases escape into the environment.
You got to be crapping me. Are you serious? It's like a fart catcher?
Yeah. The cows saw this.
Oh, that's good. I wonder if it's like a balloon. Does it blow it up? That's incredible.
I didn't look into it too much to know, but yeah, that's what seemed to be what the general theme was, is that at least it was a fart catcher.
Oh, wow. Okay. We covered some ground in this talk, buddy.
Yeah, that's probably a good point right here to stop with the fart catching.
Yeah, we got a little off topic, but it was fun. Hey, there's a lot of stuff coming, and I like to try to focus on things at the end of conversation. And G. Edward Griffin told me that when I was doing an interview with him, the last one. He said it's important at the end of these doom and gloom talks and all the stuff that's going on to talk about the solution, because it's easy to talk about what's falling apart. That's everywhere. And he was saying if we can get 1%, like me and you and others, Ninja, to get the word out and the message out of things that are coming and ways to go, we have a better chance. 1% will encourage 15%. And it's the only way out of this situation. And there's not a whole lot of good news to talk about other than maybe the flu's gone. What do you think?
I think that I've spoken with some friends, and one recently who wasn't fully up to date with all this stuff, but has recently become very up to date with it all, was telling me that he's never felt so alive. And I've heard that from other people too. We're put on this earth to like bring humanity forward, to have humanity, to build, to harvest the earth, and to be a steward to the earth. We're not put on this planet to watch football and baseball and sit around on couches or check in at a 9 to 5. And I think that in one respect, I feel more alive right now. I feel like I'm in the thick of it. I feel like I'm at war. There's something exhilarating about that. What can we all do? What are the solutions? I think that many of us might really consider relocating if we're in cities, certain cities particularly. You might consider relocating if it's a possibility, whether it be to the country or to another state. A lot of us have wives. If I was not married, I would be in the middle of nowhere right now. However, I'm married, so I had to compromise, but I was able to get out of California and move to Idaho. And
Good job, brother.
it's been a much it's been much better for our mental health, first and foremost at this point. And I think long term, it's going to be just the economy is booming here. So they're speaking of solutions, tight knit communities that are growing smart with productive people in them. Relocation might be a consideration. And once you relocate, then you talked about this. We should have a pantry, a big one filled with food that will last us some time. I hear a lot about guns. Everyone's like, oh, I got to get the guns. We always hear about a record number of guns being bought, but I want to hear about a record number of storable water and storable food being bought. Educating ourselves on shows like this, I think, is important. Reading, I think, getting away from the computers and reading books, getting away from the news, because that's where a lot of the negative energy comes from. And I think that part of its usefulness as a weapon is the negative energy that emanates from these screens. And this is nothing new. The computer is nice because we do have a little bit more control over what we're doing. It's more active. I've 90% or so of my computer use over the last 15 years, which probably has been 90% of my life, unfortunately, has been me being active, has been me trying to build, trying to do companies, trying to learn. Books, though, we should step away from the computers, spend time with our families, read books. And I'm putting 3 fingers back at myself right now on that. I need to read some books. And so then networking, we need a network. We need to speak the truth. We need to not be scared. We need to accept our condition, the human condition, and accept our role as sovereign individuals and carry on really sort of the most enlightened aspects of Western civilization, which I think in many ways were embodied most recently at the founding of this country with our founding documents in the Bill of Rights, the first 10 Bill of Rights. That is the foundation of any sane worldview, And if you feel that freedom is selfish, or you feel that the founding documents are racist, then you are discounting classical history, the thousands of years that happened that led into the United States. You're discounting
just a few hundred.
Thousands of years of like Western classical thinking, of classical liberalism that led into this country, because the ideas
of tyranny,
and
the tyranny part that pushed everybody here.
And then dating back to like classical Greece with like classical philosophy, which the Magna Carta, which was like essentially the first document which said that you're not a subject of the king, and you are your own individual. So I think that tight-knit communities, networks, and not being scared, these are some of the solutions that come to the top of my mind.
You mentioned the Constitution, man. Those guys were so smart. I got chill bumps on my arms. They knew this was going to happen. They knew from history what happened to them and their parents, that government was going to get too big and there needed to be certain things in place. And we're here. They saw this coming. It's incredible. I mean, when you read about the people that came over here first, they lost everything. A lot of them died. They lost all their wealth. There were wealthy people over there in England that lost it all to come here and build this awesome country that is being eroded out from under us. And conservatives just want to go to baseball games and eat hot dogs. And, you know, weak men create hard times, and they've done a damn good job of it. And I can see it. I can see things from far off, it seems like. I'm always early. That's the best news probably that we've talked about, is because I know I'm early because I'm always early. But I can see it. It's so evident that it's coming. It's on the way. It's just like, you know, the coronavirus thing. Oh, I said that, didn't I? The thing came that ate the flu. I was saying, hey, this is coming. It's right here. It's coming. It's going to be here. Oh, Chris, we'll worry about that when it gets to North Louisiana. Just don't you worry too much. God's in control. You know, and I know that. That's not it. That's God was in control when they were incinerating Jews by the millions. You know, it's I can see it. It's so evident. It's on the way. And I'm going to do whatever I can do to help people. And I'm about to go out there and get a break. Just like you said, I'm going to take your advice. I was going to do it anyway. Went and got a new chain for my chainsaw, and I'm going to clear some land over here. I've got 10 acres, and that's my way to get out. I get out and I cut up trees, and I'm going to make a big fire for Thanksgiving and have a bunch of people over and have a big time. That's going to be a much needed break from everything that's going on.
I don't want to keep you from your break for much longer. I do want to do this again soon. We can continue some of the topics we talked today. I kind of want to talk more about God being in control and natural law as well, which I think is a big part of the foundation of this country. But you know, I think we're going on an hour 15 now, and
oh wow. Well, I don't want to keep you either, bud. So yeah,
you know, Chris, it was a pleasure sitting down and speaking with you today. We covered a wide range of topics. I have fun at the Red Pill Expo. I hope to see you at Bitcoin 2022. I think you'll really like it. I think you'll really get a good feel for what this Bitcoin thing is all about, actually. And if you read the news, you're not going to get a feel for that. It's going to be price. But that is, I think, just a distraction, and it's not particularly interesting to me unless someone's going into some real good analysis about like how price behaves and the psychological element or something real deep in the weeds. But just saying like, oh, the number went up and this is great, we're so special, we bought Bitcoin when it was at a lower number, is really not what it is about. And when you go to Bitcoin 2022, you feel that. And then after that, I guess we'll be seeing each other hopefully at a silver conference again.
Absolutely. I'm planning on hitting them all. So there's no telling. I'm going to do my best to be at the Bitcoin conference 2022. I'm going to be there, I'm going to say.
Well, let's talk about that offline, and then we'll do this again sometime real soon.
All right, brother. Have a great day.
You too. Thank you. Thanks everyone for listening.